911 was an emergency. What's going on? Who had the knife? What's going on? Is someone hurt?
She's stabbing my mom.
She stabbed your mom?
Yeah. Please, 2518 Chagrin Drive, let us know it's stab wound. Attention.
This is the voice of 13-year-old Megan Sella. She was just a regular girl from a normal family, a loving mom, a stepdad, and 2 sisters. But this 911 call was anything but normal. It carried the weight of confusion and heartbreak as their world fell apart. Megan's mom was gone. She had been stabbed. But the question remained, who held the knife? And how did this close-knit family end up in such a terrible situation?
How about with Lisa? How do you dealing with her?
Me and Lisa have never been the best. She's never seemed to like me, and she's been wanting me out of the house.
At first glance, this seemed like a simple yet puzzling story of family tension and jealousy. But as the layers peeled back, it became clear there was much more beneath the surface. From a troubled upbringing to a quiet suburban neighborhood, who was truly responsible for a mother's tragic death? This is the story of Sabrina Zunick. It all began on November 12, 2012, a day that shattered the Cannell family forever. The Cannells lived in Willoughby Hills, a peaceful suburb just outside Cleveland, Ohio. Their life seemed ordinary and stable. Kevin Cannell worked as a truck driver, while his wife, Lisa, was a social worker with the Cuyahoga County Department of Children and Family Services. Their home, a cozy 3-bedroom house near the calm Chagrin River, was a perfect place for a family. The front yard was big and inviting, with a trampoline and a wooden playset where the kids could laugh and play. The Cannell kids were cared for and loved, and there was no reason to think anything bad would happen. That evening, Kevin was away for work, driving his truck. Lisa stayed home with their 3 kids. Haley, the youngest at 3 years old, was Lisa and Kevin's daughter. Megan, 13, was Lisa's daughter from her first marriage. Then there was 18-year-old Sabrina, their foster daughter, who had recently turned legal age. Lisa had a routine. She'd put Haley to bed around 10 p.m. Little Haley often crept back into Lisa and Kevin's room later to fall asleep beside her mom. Megan usually went to her own room at the same time. Sabrina, being older and more independent, stayed up later, working on a British literature assignment in the small office area. It seemed like any other quiet night in the Cannell household. But what unfolded would leave everyone asking the same question. How could things go so horribly wrong?
Yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
getting done with my homework, going, I don't know, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Sabrina had her headphones on, listening to music, not paying much attention to what was happening around the house. She stayed focused on her school project until around midnight. Feeling tired, she headed upstairs to bed, but a nagging headache kept her from falling asleep.
You go open up the medicine cabinet, white bottle that says ibuprofen. How many did you take?
3.
You take 3 of those. After you take 3 of them, where do you go from there?
I don't know.
Megan and Haley were fast asleep in their beds, and Lisa was resting in her room too. Meanwhile, Sabrina stood nearby, taking some medication. What happened next remains a mystery. At around 1:15 a.m., 13-year-old Megan woke up to the sound of a struggle. She hurried to her mom's room, only to find her foster sister, her mom, and a knife.
What's going on? Hello?
My mom was a knife. She's trying to hurt me.
Who had the knife?
My sister.
Lisa Cannell was stabbed 178 times on her head, neck, torso, and limbs. She had deep defensive wounds, showing she fought back. Some injuries were especially brutal, with the knife twisted as it was used. One wound to her jaw was so severe that it cut her carotid artery. The weapon was a 15-inch serrated knife, bent from the force of the attack. By the time help arrived, it was too late. Lisa had lost so much blood that her veins had collapsed and her heart had stopped. 3-year-old Haley was hiding in a closet, terrified. Sabrina, covered in blood, Lisa's blood, was holding the knife. At 1:17 a.m., a police officer received a call about an assault in the quiet neighborhood of Willoughby Hills. When he arrived at the Cannell house, 13-year-old Megan was outside, clutching the phone she'd used to call 911. She begged the officer to stop what was happening inside. The officer moved quickly into the house and down the hallway toward Lisa and Kevin's room. He called for Sabrina to come out with her hands up. She emerged, trembling, her clothes soaked in blood, still holding the knife. She was crying and had small cuts on her hands, neck, and legs. When questioned, Sabrina was incoherent and uncooperative, but the evidence was clear. Megan had witnessed the attack, and the blood covering Sabrina told the story. But the biggest question remained, why? Why would Sabrina, a foster daughter who had been taken in and cared for, turn on her foster mom in such a horrifying way? To understand, we need to go back to Sabrina Zunich's childhood. Born in October 1994, Sabrina's early years were filled with chaos and instability. Her parents, Mark Zunich and Susan Edwards, both had long criminal records. Susan had been imprisoned for grand theft in 1984 and later faced charges for providing drugs to teenagers and obstructing justice. Sabrina's father, Mark, also had a history of arrests, including domestic violence. He was an alcoholic with untreated schizophrenia. When Sabrina was just 16 months old, Mark was arrested for beating her mother. Despite the dysfunction, Sabrina lived with her father and grandmother in a small house in Wycliffe. According to neighbors, the police were often called to their home. Mark was frequently drunk and his behavior was erratic. One neighbor recalled how Mark would put vodka in baby Sabrina's bottle to make her sleep. By the time Sabrina was 11, things had escalated. Mark's alcoholism and paranoia made life unbearable. He accused Susan of stealing money, pulled her by the hair, and threw her out of the house. When the police arrived, they found Mark ranting, his mental health clearly deteriorating. Over the years, his arrests piled up until his death from an apparent drug overdose in 2012. By then, Sabrina had already been removed from her father's care. At 14, she was placed in a county-run group home for troubled teens. Diagnosed with ADHD at a young age, Sabrina struggled with anger, lying, stealing, and substance abuse. At school, she often got into fights and was known for her temper. But when she transferred schools and moved to a foster family, her behavior seemed to improve. That foster family was the Cannell family. Lisa Cannell, a social worker who worked with troubled children, was no stranger to difficult cases. She tried to help Sabrina with the same compassion she gave to the children in her care. At first, things seemed to get better. Sabrina had perfect attendance at school and stayed out of trouble. But underneath the surface, cracks were forming. The relationship between Lisa and Sabrina quickly soured. Sabrina felt Lisa favored her two biological daughters, Megan and Haley, and the arguments between them became frequent and heated. Sabrina confided in friends, saying Lisa made her life miserable. Meanwhile, Sabrina grew closer to Kevin, Lisa's husband. Kevin became her confidant and support when she felt Lisa was against her. Their relationship, however, went beyond what anyone expected. Friends of Sabrina noticed the strange dynamic between her and Kevin. They made inappropriate jokes and seemed uncomfortably close, but no one suspected the truth, that Kevin had groomed Sabrina into a secret relationship. Sabrina believed they were in love and kept it hidden from the rest of the family. This toxic bond between Kevin and Sabrina, combined with the tension in the household, set the stage for the horrific events of November 12, 2012.
Kevin's a miracle. I mean, he's more the one that helps me out because this has Megan to deal with, and so we made agreements a long time ago that if I need anything, that I could go to Kevin.
Whenever Lisa, Megan, and Haley were out, Kevin and Sabrina spent time together. Sabrina even saved his contact on her iPad under the name Kevin Love.
What was his relationship to you?
It was when a foster father when needed to be, and when a lover when not being a foster father.
As Kevin and Sabrina grew closer in 2012, Sabrina's relationship with Lisa fell apart completely. Sabrina felt like an outsider in the family and believed Lisa didn't want her around. "She wanted me out," Sabrina later said. Sabrina grew especially attached to 3-year-old Haley, developing a strong protective bond with her. She grew resentful of Lisa, thinking she was trying to keep them apart. Tensions escalated when Lisa physically restrained Sabrina during a heated argument. Sabrina reported the incident to the police, but no action was taken. Despite the growing hostility in the house, Sabrina managed to stay with the family even after she turned 18 in October 2012. Her social worker didn't see any major red flags. Sabrina was doing well in school, attending therapy, and passing her drug tests. On the surface, everything seemed fine. However, in the months leading up to November 12, 2012, Kevin's marriage to Lisa began to fall apart as well. On September 15th, police were called to the Cannell home over a domestic dispute. Lisa accused Kevin of choking their daughter Megan. Kevin denied it, but saying he had only grabbed Megan by the back of the neck to guide her to her room. Though Lisa left the house that night, Kevin called the police to document his side of the story, worried it might come up in divorce proceedings. Privately, Kevin had already told Sabrina he wanted to divorce Lisa so they could be together. He even asked Sabrina's social worker if he could keep custody of Sabrina after separating from Lisa. During a camping trip with his friend David Strunk in October 2012, Kevin revealed that Lisa suspected he was having an affair with Sabrina. To David's shock, Kevin showed him photos of Sabrina, including modeling shots and underwear Sabrina had bought for him. Kevin also admitted he was consulting a divorce lawyer. On the night of November 12, 2012, Kevin was working when he got the call from police about the incident. His first question was about his girls. By 5 a.m., he had picked up Megan and Haley from the police station. Sabrina, however, remained in custody. Officers noticed Kevin's calm and unusual behavior that morning. He claimed he used to work as an EMT and had seen similar situations before, saying he could handle the details of what had happened. He appeared strangely focused on learning every detail of the night's events. Kevin also seemed more concerned about Sabrina than Lisa. He grew angry when he wasn't allowed to see Sabrina, demanding access as her foster father. He made sure his name was added to her visitor list. Meanwhile, police continued their investigation, trying to piece together the truth behind Lisa's horrific murder and Sabrina's role in it.
Oh, you had a knife. And you stabbed Lisa.
I did.
And Megan called the police.
On the surface, Kevin seemed to move on quickly after Lisa's death. He cleared out her belongings, donating many to Goodwill, and trying to sell her bedroom furniture on Craigslist. He even asked his friend David to delete Lisa's social media accounts, saying he couldn't handle the constant messages. Just 5 days after Lisa's murder, on November 17th, Kevin hired a cleaning company to sanitize the crime scene. Witnesses described his behavior as cold and emotionless. Kevin mentioned money wasn't an issue because he had a $250,000 life insurance policy. But that wasn't his only source of funds. Kevin later confided to one of Lisa's coworkers that her $50,000 salary would be hard to replace, yet he had no trouble cashing in multiple life insurance policies. Altogether, Kevin collected an astounding $785,000 from both private insurers and policies from his employer. Kevin wasted no time spending the money. He paid off the mortgage on their previously foreclosed home, added a swimming pool, bought new cars, and even began taking flying lessons. While Kevin enjoyed his lavish lifestyle, Sabrina sat behind bars, awaiting trial for Lisa's murder. 9 months later, the story took a shocking turn. Tired of being blamed for everything, Sabrina decided to confess. She told police the truth about her relationship with Kevin, and, most importantly, the real story behind Lisa's murder. Sabrina admitted that Kevin had told her Lisa needed to die. When asked why she followed through, Sabrina's chilling reply was, "Because I was doing what I was told to do."
Why is it that you could violently and brutally stab her repeatedly 178 times?
Because I was manipulated to do it.
By who?
Kevin.
For months, Kevin had been telling Sabrina he wanted to divorce Lisa so they could be together. But in September 2012, Kevin admitted he was afraid of losing custody of his daughters, especially Haley, if he filed for divorce. He also revealed Lisa's life insurance policies, which totaled nearly $800,000, and told Sabrina that Lisa was worth more dead than alive. Kevin promised Sabrina that if Lisa were gone, they could finally be together and even start a family of their own. The pair began planning Lisa's murder. At first, they considered hiring a hitman. They even discussed it with one of Sabrina's high school friends, Autumn Pavik, during a car ride to a Chinese buffet. Kevin and Sabrina asked if Autumn knew someone who could do the job, but the plan fell apart when Autumn moved to California in October. Kevin and Sabrina didn't give up. In early November, they considered using a gun. The idea was for Sabrina to shoot Lisa with a pillow to muffle the noise, and Kevin would get rid of the weapon. But this plan quickly evolved into something far more brutal, leading to the horrific events of November 12, 2012. Just 9 months after Lisa's murder, Sabrina started to understand the reality of her situation. Kevin hadn't helped with her legal defense, and her insanity plea wasn't working. Realizing she had been manipulated, Sabrina chose to cooperate with prosecutors. She asked for a plea deal and agreed to reveal everything Kevin had done. Kevin's seemingly flawless escape plan began to fall apart. Investigators reached out to Autumn Pavik, who agreed to help. She met with Kevin to discuss the supposed hitman plan, hoping to get him to confess.
The only thing that I'm worried about is that whole hitman thing.
I honestly don't know. She talked a big game about a lot of things.
The meeting was recorded, but Kevin didn't admit to anything during their conversation. Additionally, search warrants for Kevin's home, vehicles, and electronics failed to uncover any hard evidence linking him to the crime. Even without physical proof, Sabrina's testimony was devastating. In August 2013, Kevin was arrested and charged with complicity to commit aggravated murder and sexual battery. Around the same time, Sabrina pleaded guilty to aggravated murder. She was sentenced to life in prison, but would be eligible for parole after 30 years. This means Sabrina could be released in 2042 at the age of 47. Kevin, on the other hand, pleaded not guilty. His defense argued there was no solid proof of his affair with Sabrina or his role in Lisa's murder. They painted Sabrina as an unstable young woman with a troubled past, substance abuse issues, and a history of lying, hoping to undermine her credibility. However, this argument only made the case even more disturbing. Kevin had preyed on a vulnerable, emotionally unstable teenager, manipulating her into committing a horrific crime.
The jury's verdict indicates that they believe that this murder would not have happened without your involvement, without your encouragement, without your actions, without your directions.
On June 11, 2014, the jury found Kevin guilty on all charges. He received 2 years for each of 6 counts of sexual battery and a life sentence for complicity to aggravated murder. He will be eligible for parole after 30 years, with his sentences to be served one after another. This story leaves us with a haunting question: who is truly to blame? Share your thoughts in the comments.